Welcome to Objective-C tutorials from Tivana Software Training and Consulting. Next steps of action. I have a series of tutorials on Xcode. I will highly recommend that you watch them because I go in detail everything you need to know about Xcode, so it'll make it easy for you to understand Objective-C. A lot of techniques here that I'm going to use are covered in those tutorials. So they are good ones. Watch them. Follow these tutorials now, and they are going to be about Objective-C, the basics of Objective-C, and we are going to make a little small iPhone application and learn Objective-C in that context. In the future, Cocoa Touch is coming up as the next series of tutorials. So what I'm going to do right now is make a very quick small application. It'll have just one screen, a button, and when you click on a button, it executes some code, and we look at the structure of a class, create a class, and see how we can use those classes and build on top of it, build out of from it. And basically, it's file, new project, and a single view application. Next, it is OCT, Objective-C Tutorial 1. It's going to be an iPhone type application. No use storyboards. Use automatic reference counting. Very good. It automatically deallocates memory management. Very nice technique. Use that here. Make life very simple as opposed to previous versions of the iPhone, previous version of this language. Next, we want to use the repository, the source code control, as I talked about in Xcode tutorials. Create. I have already done that, and I have that OCT1 here. This is what you will end up with. You have basic one nib file, which is your user interface. I'm going to drag a button, a label, and text box on it. A label, I'm just dragging and dropping it there. A text box, a button. I'm going to change this button's text to call my button 1. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the associated editor of this user interface. Which is the viewcontroller.m file. It goes here. No, I'm going to make this a little bit wider so I can see it. Close this. Click here again, associated editor, implementation view, and I have viewcontroller.h and viewcontroller.m. They are the associated editors. I want to open viewcontroller.h basically right next to it. I'm click on button again. By the way, all this is explained in great detail in my Xcode tutorials. Touch up inside. Basically, I'm creating an IB action for this button. When I click on it, I want some code to fire. So basically, the code is in viewcontroller.m file. Okay, click on it here. You see it put a signature there and implementation there. So now let's try to understand what happened here. This is a class. Why do I have two files? In order to explain that better, let me start. This is the code behind for this nib file, so that makes it a little bit complicated. Let's start with a simple file. Will be this button. All this harness is to use the class and understand, but that's not the objective here. This is just to help in the learning. So very first thing now I want to do is create a class called customer. But as I talked about in my Xcode tutorials, we want to organize it by creating a new group. I'm going to call it my group. I'm just right clicking, new file, Cocoa Touch, Objective-C, next, customer, subclass of NS object. If it's not there, just type NS up and it'll try to autofill for you. Everything inherits from NS object. It's going to be the simplest class that you can make. Create. And what happened? I got two files. Why did I get two files? So basically, Objective-C is written in two files. One, they both have the same name. Well, it could be different, but for simplicity, let's not confuse stuff. The name is the same, but the extension is different. That's .h, they call it extension. One is the header file, .h file. One is the implementation, .m file. So if I open this up, if I click here on customer.h, what file is this? It's customer.h. It says it right there and also here. And if you look here, it says customer.m and also here. So I'm looking at customer.m here, customer.h there. Why two files? Customer.h has some import statements, and we'll see in a minute what import statement is, and it has interface like it just has variables and signatures of methods. And .m file actually has implementation where you can access those variables and implementations for those methods. Now we want to do that next. But first of all, let's see what this is, what comments are. In the .h file or .m file, you want to type comments, right? You say // type nothing for structure, or you type customer.h. These are comments right here in green. All of these are comments. It's not computer code. It's just, these are just comments for you or for somebody who will look at your code. The next most important thing is the hash sign import statement. It's a keyword. It says I have an intention of using what? You specify that within left angle bracket and right angle bracket. Foundation.h. Why angle brackets? It means, well, this .h file, this header file, is defined within Cocoa Touch supplied by Apple, and I have intention of using it. So you are telling the linker or compiler. There's another variation on it, and that's why I added the other class, and I'm gonna jump. Of course, you cannot do it in here. We want to use this class here. So I'm gonna click on this .h file and show you the other variation of it. Again, it goes with I type hash sign import and I press double quote opens up, or header. You see it gives me two variations. Is it defined within Cocoa Touch? I know it's not. I'm going to use the other variation within double quotes. I'm going to press tab right there. It'll jump over and highlight the header, and I can type in customer. As I start to type, it autofills the IntelliSense. It knows that I have some files in there. Well, I have just one file, customer.h over here, so it pops it up. If I have more, I'll get a list and I can select from it. So I'm going to just press enter right here, and I am done. So this variation says I have an intention of using everything defined in customer header, customer.h file, and it's not Cocoa Touch file, it's my own. So these are the two variations. Now let's jump back to customer.h file, which is a simple one, and we are going to continue our discussion of defining variables. A class has variables and it has methods. In .h file, we specify the data types and names of variables and whether they are pointers or not, and we define signatures of methods. In the .m file, we actually make those variables accessible and define implementation of those methods, and that's what we're going to do next. And that'll be in part 2. We'll continue. So let me recap the basic things. The basic thing in Cocoa Touch is a class. The class is defined in two files. Same name, but different extensions. .h file is called the header file. It has signatures of methods and list of variables and their data types. .m file actually has the implementation of those methods and makes those variables accessible. See you in part 2.